Well, hello, boys and girls. It's when we feel like it o'clock. And here I am with John again from Off the Wall Hockey. Uh, if you don't know who he is, I don't know why. Everybody in the land knows he is. Maybe he's got like a coma from the COVID or something like that. But he has a fantastic channel as well. Does a lot of live stuff. Does trivia stuff. It's fun as hell. Also has a Patreon that he does sort of the similar sort of thing with it. I'd highly recommend you check it out. But another big thing with him that you'll find is he knows a hell of a lot about hockey. I've been watching him for quite a while. I really enjoy his stuff. I really enjoy his lean on how he looks at the game, and we had a lot of fun last time doing Montreal Canadiens, which John had great pleasure in doing because he's a Boston Bruins fan and Montreal sucks.
Yep.
So it was fun. It was fun. We had a great time. So I asked him, and I reached out again, and we said, okay, his favorite in the West, he's wearing the jersey, Colorado.
Yes.
John, is there anything you're doing right now on your channel that you like to tell people about, or anything new coming up?
No, I'm just trying to keep giving out, good daily content every day. Nothing in particular right now. Just kind of waiting for hockey to come back, or at least draft talk or anything at this point. It's been tough the last couple months not having actual hockey.
Yeah, it is a little bit difficult. I've noticed my viewership has gone down quite a bit as well. But the diehards are always there, and that's the main thing. And that's what we're all about. You guys, you diehards that watch us all the time, we're thankful for you guys, and it's the reason why we do what we do. It's lots of fun. So let's get to some Colorado here. First of all, if you're a Colorado fan out there, I am like very, very jealous.
Yeah. They are loaded.
What a freaking team this Joe Sakic has put together. My gosh.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Just the amount of talent, the young talent that they have. This is the position that every single team in the league wishes that they were in.
Yes, absolutely. We were talking before about the New York Rangers being maybe the only other team that is this close to how do I explain it? Being a team that can win several cups in this decade.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And this is a team that not only could win now this year, but is set up to win 5, 6, 7 years in the future as well.
Yeah. Those two teams look like the dynasties right now as a possibility to be a dynasty. There are some teams that have an opportunity to be in that direction, like the Edmonton Oilers, maybe if they fill out their roster. But this team here, this is Joe Sakic. I mean, he was a brilliant player. When I mean brilliant, probably one of, if not the most intelligent player to ever play the game. Certainly up there as the greatest of all time in that category, and a lot of other categories as well, of course.
Yep.
But he's one of the smartest players I ever saw, and that intelligence is translated very much into being a general manager, because he is, I don't know what kind of freaking charming he does or whatever, but Landeskog, we were just looking at contracts. Landeskog at $6.5 million for the next 5 years. Are you freaking kidding me? Like, how does that happen?
This team is just the contracts. I mean, to have Nathan MacKinnon at 6.3, to have Mikko Rantanen locked up long term under $10 million at 9.25, Samuel Girard on the back end at $5 million a year. You've got Eric Johnson as the kind of the veteran leader of that defense core at $6 million a year. Donskoy under $4 million, Compfers at $3.5 million. Landeskog needs a new contract after next season, but he's probably going to take a team-friendly deal. McKinnon said that he's willing to take another team-friendly deal. It just keeps on coming with this team.
I meant to say McKinnon, not Landeskog, right?
Yeah, the contracts are unreal with this team.
unheard of in the cap world to be able to get people signed up. When you think about, we were talking about, when you think, oh, there's you mentioned Nazem Kadri, the
Yeah,
best
$4.5 million.
the best contract the Toronto Maple Leafs have signed, and they trade him to
Yeah.
Colorado.
Yep.
And they don't have a single really good contract on that team in Toronto. But here you have a guy who just continually gets good contracts out of these players. And I don't know what he's pushing to them or how he's selling it, but my gosh, what an amazing. So looking at contracts, we've got Andre Burakovsky coming up. What do you figure is going to happen with this contract, John?
Burakovsky definitely is a guy I think they want to keep. I think they went out and got him from Washington for a reason. He was kind of buried on the Capitals, didn't get the big offensive minutes or the chance to put up the numbers that he's capable of. And in Washington, Jakub Vrana just straight up came and took his spot. So now in Colorado, I think they're looking at him as being a second line scorer and a top six player. And you got to think, I don't think he's had a really good year this past year, but this was his first time really showing that level of offense at the NHL level. I got to think it's going to be a bridge deal here. He's 25 years old. I don't think he's shown enough to give him that type of 6 or 7 year deal. I think you're looking at a bridge deal here, probably 2 years, maybe $4.5 million per season, something like that. And then if he plays well, then he'll be a free agent at 27, and then he'll probably get that longer term deal at a higher value as well.
Yeah, I'm thinking Donskoy numbers for a short-term deal as well. I have a feeling that Sakic may go try to sell him on a 5.5 for long-term. But if I'm his agent, I'm saying no, because if he can continue the pace he did last year and show consistency, he could be looking at an $8 million contract in 3 years or what have you. So, but who knows? I mean, whatever Joe Sakic's putting in their drink when they get together alone somewhere.
He might be able to get him on a cheaper deal.
Nothing would surprise me at this point after the deals we've seen. I mean, we were talking about even that Rantanen deal at under $10 million for the next 5 years?
6 years, yeah.
Under $9 million for the next 6 years. He's 23 years old and already shown to be a point per game at least performer.
Yeah.
What? How the hell? I have no idea how he does it, but yeah, it's impressive. So what else do we got? We got Vladislav Nemesnikov as a UFA here. They didn't seem to be in a rush to sign him right away. What do you figure they're going to do in his case?
Well, it's hard to say because they have so many people that they need to slot into this lineup, and a lot of it's going to depend on some of the younger guys and whether or not they're ready to make that move up. Is Vlad Kamenev ready to take a regular role in the NHL lineup, or is he going to be still back and forth like he was this past year? Tyson Jost, I think, is pretty much solidified his spot in the lineup. He can play up in your lineup and he can play on the fourth line if you need him to. He's 22 now. He needs a new contract at the after this season, this coming off season. But you've got talent down in the minors as well with Martin Kaut and Shane Bowers and some other guys down there that you look at and you go, if they move up, then a guy like Nemesnikov is completely just unnecessary in this lineup, and there really isn't a spot for him. And I think you could say the same thing about guys like Matt Nieto or Colin Wilson, where they're just kind of not needed if these younger guys are able to make the move up. If those younger guys need more time down in the minors, then you kind of need to fill the roster out for another year or two. But it's going to depend a lot on some of these young guys and whether or not they are NHL ready now, or if they need another year or two of development before they're move up fully.
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with the market too. Like you mentioned, several Wilson. Wilson has been injured a lot. I don't know if the market's going to be overly strong for him anyways. And it's possible they might sign him to a 1 year, like 800,000 or something like that, because he
Yeah.
may not be able to get that anywhere else. If he can, they'll say, "Hey, thanks for being there here with us, and hopefully your injury woes are no longer, and you can sell it. You can go try your wear somewhere else." Like for Nemeshnikov, I agree with you. It's going to depend on the kid. I have a feeling those kids are going to be okay. I like Kamenev. I thought he really upped his game last year. And I think
Mm-hmm.
they really want to give him a good shot at that lineup with the effort he put into last year to keep his spot. And my
Mm-hmm.
feeling is that Nemesnikov, if he were to stay, would be like a 13th forward on the team. And they're only going to give a 13 forward about $1 million. It's pretty likely he'll be able to find some team out there that give him a lot more than that.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, so I think he'll likely ply his wares elsewhere as well, more than likely. But yeah, for sure. Okay, so what else do we got here? We got a big one actually. One that's really interesting is Nichushkin and him being a restricted free agent this year. That is an interesting contract.
Yeah, absolutely. Cause I mean, he was on an $850,000 deal this year. He, was coming back from Europe after having a big time falling out with Dallas and things just not working there at all. And he came back this year and had a very, very good season for a third line level guy with Colorado. So at this point, I would think that Colorado would want him back given how he played this season. I think that it fit, the fit works. So he's probably going to want to be back with Colorado, but he's certainly going to be getting a raise over the $850,000 that he made last year. He's going to, certainly want some more money than that if he's going to be proven himself as an NHL regular as a third liner. You're probably looking at, $2 million, $2.5 million a year.
Yeah, I mean, if they can get him at $2.5 million, I think that's very interesting. I would love to sign him to as long as I possibly can. I'd even push it up to 3 if I could. But the other issue that we also mentioned Kamenev, which we'll talk about afterwards. What kind of money is he going to be looking for? The other issue too is with all of these guys we're talking about. One of them, if not two of them, may be left off for the Seattle team if they don't find a place for them beforehand, as far as a trading partner or what have you, which will probably come into contract talks as well. So, yeah, I have a feeling they're going to try to sign these guys as long as they can, at least for the possibility that it's going to give them more value to have them sign longer if they deem necessary to trade them for the purpose of the fact that they would likely lose them to Seattle. So I have a feeling that they're going to trade them so try to sign them for a long contract. And the Nichushkin's camp may be going, no. We did really well here. And it's going to be very difficult. How is Nichushkin going to look at it? After going through what he did in Dallas, does he want to risk going to another organization? This organization gave him a chance, gave him a spot. Is he going to take the safe route and say, look, these guys treat me really, really well. I don't know where I'm going if I go somewhere else. I don't know what, after getting that bitter taste in your mouth with Dallas, he may just say, you know what, sign me up for $3 million for 5 years. And I think if he says that, they'll be like all over it. But on the same note, then he's like, well, wait a second. What if I got to go to Seattle anyways? Then do I want to give up my opportunity to move to where I want to do it? So that's going to be a very interesting contract. And the next one I had was Kamenev, who we were just talking about, restricted free agent.
Yep.
What do you figure there? I'm sure they'll sign him.
Yeah, I'm sure that they're going to sign him. He was a big piece of that Matt Duchene deal with Nashville and Ottawa that was such a massive deal. But he's a guy that really hasn't proven himself fully at the NHL level yet. So you're going to get him for lesser money than someone who is been playing a regular shift at the NHL level for the last few years. It's probably going to be I doubt will be anything long term. I think it's very much going to be a 1 or 2 year thing. I think Colorado wants to see him, play a full season at the NHL level. And I think that he's not going to want to sign anything long term, because if he does grow into become that player that, he has the potential to be, then he's not going to want to be locked into a cheap, long-term contract. So I think what makes the most sense for both sides here is just something short-term, bridge deal until he proves, what he is at the NHL level.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's likely going to be a 1 year contract.
Yeah, I do too.
$1 million 1 year or something like that. Okay, well, let's get into their defense then. We got Eric Johnson. Not a bad contract still. He's taken a lot of, I don't know. He was so highly touted when he was drafted. I think he takes a lot of flack that's undeserved. He's still a pretty solid defenseman at $6 million a year for 4 years. The question again, when we get into the expansion draft, we have a lot of defensemen here and only can protect 3.
Yeah.
One of the big which leaves a really interesting question on what they're going to do with a guy like Nikita Zadorov, who's a restricted free agent this year. What do you figure in that regard?
I love Zadorov. I think he's a great physical defensive defenseman. I would think that they're going to re-sign him. Again, probably not a super long-term deal, but this defense is tough to gauge because they are just, again, they're loaded. I mean, we know Cale Makar is probably going to be a Norris Trophy winning defenseman. Samuel Girard is a very, very good middle pair guy. You have Eric Johnson, who's kind of the veteran leader of this group at this point. Even though he's only 32, he's the oldest one on the D-Corps. And he's still got 3 more years on his deal, so I don't really see him going anywhere. Ryan Graves had an incredibly good season this year, really coming out of nowhere. He spent a long time in the AHL, and this just shows what can happen when you actually give young defensemen time in the minors to develop and get better and improve their game. And now he comes up to the NHL at 24 years old, which in this day and age is kind of late. When we see so many 20 and 21-year-olds up in the NHL now, 24 is pretty late. But he came up this season, a seasoned, developed defenseman. He led the league in plus minus. He was plus 40 this year. He had 26 points. He had an outstanding all-around season as a two-way defenseman. Who do you protect if you're Colorado? Like, you obviously have to protect Makar. Girard, you're going to want to protect. You just signed him long term. That you only have one more. Do you protect Eric Johnson? Do you protect Ryan Graves? Do you protect Nikita Zadorov? You can't protect all of them. There's so many decisions to be made here just based on you have so many good players. In the Seattle equation, the good news for Colorado is you can only lose one player. So as many as these guys that they're going to have to leave unprotected that are still good players. The good news is you can only lose one of them, but it's going to be a big decision. I would say Zadorov pretty much has no chance of being protected. I think that third one is going to come down to either Graves or Johnson, and it's going to be, do you want the younger guy or do you want the veteran guy? To protect. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I think they'll likely have to make a trade somewhere before the draft, or maybe give up a pick to protect one of them if they can.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm sitting there, if I'm Seattle, I'm smacking my lips on Ryan Graves. I'm totally with you, man. That guy.
Absolutely. He'd be the first one I'd take.
I remember when he was playing for the Rangers, when he was in their farm, I watched him. I was like, who is this guy? Like, his tools are amazing. And if he can just, his speed and size and his aggression and everything was fantastic. He just needed some work on just the mind of the game, And again, Joe Sakic and his staff, brilliant staff, recognized this. I think they only gave up a second rounder for him or something. I can't remember. And I was like, wow, I want to keep Ryan Graves, honestly. I might look at the market for Eric Johnson, and I don't like it because they don't really have much for veteran guys. You know, Barberio and Connaughton, we can talk. We both will probably agree if they keep him, it'll be a 1-year contract just to have some veterans there and some depth under D, whatever. They may let him go. But
Yeah.
really, the tough part is, and then we have Ian Cole that maybe you might want to sign and let Eric Johnson go so you got a veteran there. I don't like it, but it may be the best move right now because I don't want to let any of those guys go. I don't want Girard gone, Graves gone. No way. I would
Yeah.
really let Eric Johnson go at 32 years old. He and I would hate it. I wouldn't like it, but you got to have somebody go. And one of those D guys are going to go. I'm sure of it.
Oh, absolutely. I would think so, that they're going to lose a defenseman most likely. So, yeah, I would agree that I'm probably leaving Johnson open, and if Seattle takes him, Seattle takes him. I love Ian Cole as a bottom pair veteran defensive defenseman. I think, especially on a team with, not a lot of veteran presence, I think Ian Cole is a great guy to have in that lineup, and a really solid bottom pair guy. I mean, you talk about someone who, in his role as a depth defenseman, does it very, very well. I think Ian Cole is a fantastic guy to have there.
I just noticed something, though. Don't know why I didn't notice this before. Eric Johnson has an NMC. No movement clause.
Oh, then they have to protect him.
They have to protect him. And they can't move him hopefully Joe Sakic can put in his drink whatever he puts in everybody else's drink. And he says, maybe we'll trade you off or find where else would you like to play? And he'll do it. I don't know. He's got a family. He may not want to leave Colorado and just say, no, sorry, not happening. But it's hard to say.
It is. There's a lot of decisions to be made with this lineup for sure.
Yeah, if they have to keep him, then man, I guess Zadorov's
Zadorov would be gone, and it would come down to Graves or Girard because you're obviously keeping Makar.
Yeah, jeez. Graves or Girard? Which one? Girard's only 21 years old. He's got so much upside.
Yeah,
Graves has probably got to go.
And
because Zadorov's going to be unprotected, but they're going to take Graves over Zadorov.
Oh, absolutely.
And I don't hate keeping Zadorov.
No, right? I would definitely keep him if I was Colorado. Absolutely.
I don't hate keeping him. I'll put him out there, but I don't hate that he's coming back by any stretch. I love Zadorov. So it looks like Graves will have to go.
I would say that's most likely who Seattle would take. I mean, if I'm the GM of Seattle and I'm looking at these guys that Colorado has to leave open, Graves is the one that I am taking for sure.
Yeah, either that or Nichushkin, but yeah, Graves is probably the one. Now, that being said, the good part about that is Ryan Graves has a lot of value. So before that happens, you'd probably be able to get a first from him somewhere, right? And you could call the Seattle franchise and say, hey, look, this is the way it is. We're not giving you Ryan Graves. We're going to trade him for a first-round pick. So how about you do this? We'll give you our first next year. And by the way, they have it. And they're always good with draft picks. That's amazing. They still end up keeping their draft picks every year.
Yep.
You know, we'll give you our first next year if you take somebody else instead. If, you know, otherwise you're not getting Ryan Graves anyways, right? That's what you do because we're trading him, or you're not getting Ryan Graves no matter what. So we'll give you our first instead of Ryan Graves, and you take, say, somebody like, I don't know, Kamenev.
Yeah, you could try and work a deal like that. It's gonna be Joe Sakic has a lot of work on his hands to do for sure.
But we were talking about this before. It's like having so much money in the bank you can't figure out where you want to go on vacation. Not a bad problem to have.
Yeah, it's a great situation to be in, but there's certainly a lot of decisions to be made, and it's tough to even find, especially with the guys coming up, it's hard to find roster spots in the lineup for all of these players.
Yeah. Incredible depth. Incredible depth. Well, we should probably get into a little bit on the goaltending situation before we leave. Grubauer was injured, signed for a couple of years, and Pavel Francouz, who they extended to $2 million per. Who do you think wins over here? Do you have an idea? Do you think what do you think? Who do you think wins the battle on these two?
It's tough to say. I think with the biggest question mark with this team is their goaltending, and Grubauer's been hurt a lot. He's been given a chance to be the guy in Colorado, and he spent much of this past season injured. So I don't see him ever being that high-end number one starter. I think he's a good goalie. I don't think he's a great goalie. And then with Francouz, I mean, we saw, it's a very limited sample size. We saw, him play very well this season, but again, it's a very, short-term, small sample size that we've seen. We don't really, have a long-term idea of what he's going to look like. He's 29 as well. It's not like he's a 23-year-old just coming up from the minors. He's a little bit older. So, I don't know if he's necessarily a guy you look to be your franchise goalie for the next 6 years. I think, that's the one thing really holding this team back is the goaltending situation, because they don't have that elite number one. And when you see, the teams that win Stanley Cups are the teams that have that, at least at the time, that elite number one, the Braden Holtbys, the Matt Murrays, Jordan Binnington last year, who was just unreal since coming up halfway through the season, and played that way again this year. So Binnington certainly looks like the real deal. You need that even if it's not an elite top 5 NHL goalie, you need them to play like an elite top 5 goalie for 2 months if you're going to win the Stanley Cup. And so much of the playoffs come down to goaltending and team defense. I don't know if either of these guys are going to be Stanley Cup winning goaltenders. I don't think Grubauer is. I just don't think he's that level of goalie. Francouz, it's tough to say. We've seen flashes where he's looked like he could be. And if he got hot for a May and June and could, he certainly could go out there and win a cup. But it's such a small sample size. We don't know if he can consistently play at that level. And, that's the biggest question mark to me with this team is what's their long-term plan at goaltender?
I like Francouz. I think they like him too. They got him signed up for cheap for the next 3 years. I think they're going to give him a go. He's shown enough talent that he could very well be the guy and be very cheap. If it doesn't work out somehow, they still got tons of cap room to get another goaltender. And if a goaltender is your worst problem, you probably have the best problem of all out of all the teams out there. So I love this team. I had them winning possibly the cup this year, and I think that they will likely have a cup in the next couple of years. We probably got to let her go here. We're getting close to that 30-minute mark. I like to keep it under that.
Yep.
We will for sure do this again. I love you for doing this, buddy, and your great insight on Colorado and today. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for having me again. It was great to be on. And I mean, this team is just absolutely loaded for now and the future for sure.
Absolutely. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next time.